Mandated forms. So how many folks here have either Medicaid or duals lines of business? Okay, so you're going to feel this acutely. Just out of curiosity, how many folks are using a Trizetto product for managing these lines of business? Anybody raise their hands? How about a Health Edge product? You got a neighbor that works there? How about a Health Edge product? Anybody using? You're using Health Edge product? Okay. Just kind of taking a pulse of the room here. The government loves forms. I don't care if we're talking about the federal government or the state governments. They love forms. They love to make you love forms, or at least they are making you complicit in the whole form situation. So you probably have most of the member data that they're asking you to put on these forms. And you saw in an earlier session, members really don't love giving you the same information over and over and over again. Yet many of the forms that we put in front of members do exactly that. Some of the forms, and we're going to go through some examples, have some pretty darn complex instructions. And if we're talking about the Medicaid population, and we look for readability at a second or third grade level, I don't know if the folks who make the forms realize the levels that you all are looking to aim at, because many of them require at least a high school education, if not a college, to even understand, what are you asking me to fill out and where do I need to send it? And so we are going to take a tour through a few of the more challenging forms. It's not just that they ask you to deal with these forms. It's that every once in a while they throw you a curveball. Hey, we've changed where a comma has appeared on this form, and now you need to update all of your processes. Great. Making changes to digital forms can be complex. If you're using digital forms today, I bet you have to go ask IT to make any of those changes. Line of business usually doesn't get to make those changes. And I know when dealing with third-party organizations that if you have to go to a vendor, not even your IT organization, but if you have to involve a third-party vendor to make that change, you're in a line. You don't know when you're going to be at the front of the line, but you know there's a charge that's coming for them to make that statement of work happen for you, right? Let's take an example. An extraordinary care agreement. So folks who have Medicaid lines, this is going to look very familiar to you. This just happens to be from Ohio, but most of the extraordinary care documents are pretty similar to this. This form, as simple as it looks, is actually kind of complex. And there are a lot of opportunities for errors when completing this form. The date of birth that whoever is filling out this form puts on drives a lot of the decisions that have to be made later on in this form. Do you enter a 0 because of the date of birth? In some cases, it goes down to months old. Most of these age out around 15 or so, but one or more of these fields might have to be marked a 0. If you're not paying attention, you might not realize that. Later on, it says that you have to tally up the scores. And if you are on this threshold, you check this, and if you're on that threshold, you check that. I don't know about you, but I am busy at my job, and if I'm not paying attention, I might miss a number, I might not add it up right, I might check the wrong box because I thought it was yes and it should have been no. A lot of opportunities to miss here. Yet they give you 3 pages of definitions. And so back to what grade level are we shooting for? Even our frontline employees who are often filling these out have to refer to these definition pages because they're not necessarily experts in healthcare. And when you're asking me this question, what are you really asking me? How do I make the determination about the person who's sitting in front of me? So this means the whole rating scale is driving some if-then logic. The needs are completely out of context when you're searching through these 3 pages. You have no idea that this is actually linked to this. You have to hunt and peck. And then there's a lot of technical jargon with absolutely no additional information about what some of these terms mean. Let's take another example, a care plan. This looks simple. It's effectively a member or patient-facing form, and it's got some problems. It asks for you to provide information you already have. Again, there's a lot of demographic info, there's some care coordinator info, this is stuff you have, probably in the system of record that you're going to be entering this back into. It asks you stuff that you should already have about the member. What are their communication preferences? How do they prefer to identify themselves? Other forms have, how do you want to be communicated with and in what language, right? It does not intelligently use the information that you're providing. So it's not making decisions based off of the fact that you entered this instead of that. And you're only able to enter one care team member. And I don't know about you, but most of the folks that I know are in programs like these have a support group. It's never just one person. How do you add one more person? You can't. Form doesn't let you. Same form. No context, no help, or pre-filled information. What have they chosen? Don't know. It's not providing enough room to list other conditions that they might have. Doesn't even really give you enough room to deal with the communication or identify preferences. And it introduces the opportunity for error or abandonment, because the free-form text means they can enter anything. And I hope you can read it when they enter it. Next, same form. Missing an opportunity if they don't have a primary care physician, because they need to have a primary care physician if they're in Medicaid or Medicare, because they've got to go at least once a year for preventative care, or they have to fill out a health risk assessment, right? And so you're missing an opportunity to connect them to one of your or their in-network primary care physicians. There's no link here to any clinical data. So for example, that HRA that they have to fill out, if they don't have an HRA on file, wouldn't it be nice to say, hey, we don't have a health risk assessment for you. Would you fill this out? It doesn't have to be today, but you could send them a link to have them fill it out. And by the way, the HRA could identify other appropriate goals or pull them in. So there's a lot of missed opportunity on this particular form to really give value back to this member or patient. Same form, different page. There's absolutely no linkage on this form between the goals and the action steps that they need to take. In other words, they're interleaved almost rather than being directly related. There's no context or guidance on the additional strengths. This could actually be a self-service form if you provided help text. It wouldn't actually require a clinician to fill out most of this. And what did need to be provided to a clinician, wouldn't it be nice if it just got routed to them automatically? You're missing an opportunity with social determinants of health data. The additional barriers are on here. Wouldn't it be great if you could pull up Z codes and just list them out on this form? No opportunity there to do this. Final page, same form, some checkbox acknowledgments. Now, there's zero audit trail as to who filled out what. You have a person checking a box, and then what happens if they say no? There's no clue on the form what happens if they say no. You got to print the name and the date. All that could be pre-filled. Why not have them sign it? You saw a demo earlier where there was sign on glass. In many cases, if we're okay with a checkbox acknowledgement, we're okay with a sign on glass. Apparently, it doesn't need to be legally defensible. But it's nice to have them commit a signature to it. It's that check of, did I really answer this truthfully and completely? Got my name on it. And now what? When the form's done, what do? Scan it? Mail it? Fax it? Great, now you've got a bunch of unstructured data that you got to put somewhere. What else is wrong with these forms? Now it's kind of funny that these forms have these problems because who gave them to you? The government. But they're only in English. And yes, some of these forms are available from government sources in Spanish. But guess what? We have to hit LEP limits, right? We have to hit the number of languages that our community actually speaks. And it might not be Spanish. It might be Tagalog. Got a form in Tagalog? Nope. English only. Great. You're going to miss Section 1557 of the ACA and Title VI of the CRA by filling out this form. And it's almost like the government's setting you up for failure by giving you a form that isn't even compliant with government regulations. These forms are not accessible in any way, shape, or form. They wouldn't pass contrast ratio. They wouldn't pass a whole bunch of other tests that we are now subject to. Now, here's something that most people don't realize, especially in your roles in the organization. Web content and applications must conform to WCAG 2.1 AA by May 11th of this year for large recipients, so if you're a large payer, or May 10th of next year for small recipients. That means enforcement's going to start not long after that. That means if you do try to digitize this, it had better be accessible online, in an app, or even printed. And sadly, there's a lot of PHI in these forms. They're not very secure. No PDF really is. And so how can you possibly meet HIPAA mandates with these forms? You can't. There is a better way. As part of the Conversation Cloud, we have a wonderful tool called SmartIQ. SmartIQ is multilingual. Now, I'm going to put an asterisk there. That means SmartIQ supports multiple languages. We do not yet have an inbuilt way to do those translations, but SmartIQ allows you to build this form once in English as an example, and then export a file to send to a translator where they add the rest of your LEP languages, Tagalog, simplified Chinese, whatever is on your LEP limit list. And you re-import it back into SmartIQ, and magically, they can view the entire form in their chosen language. And there's a couple of ways to skin that cat. You can either give them the ability to click the language button. You can sense the language they have chosen in a browser or an app. There's a few ways to give them the language that they're looking for. It's also accessible out of the box. You actually have to work pretty hard to make SmartIQ projects not meet the WCAG 2.1 standards. If you were paying attention in one of the earlier sessions, I think it was one of Chris Murphy's slides, we're actually up to 2.2.AA. So we're ahead of what the government requires of you at this point to be accessible. And then we have security. I've been doing a little bit of digging, and I am pretty sure that we are one of, if not the, most secure data collection platforms available for healthcare. We have HIPAA, we have ISO, we have SOC 1 and 2, we have a bunch of other security certifications that we also actively maintain. So if you go back and you're talking to your IT team and you ask them, hey, what do we use to develop digital forms? And they tell you, you ask them, what security certifications do they have? And have you seen the most recent certificate? Because we literally just re-upped our HIPAA certification and SOC 1 or 2, I'm not sure which, at the very beginning of this year. So we constantly add to and refresh our security certifications. These are some of the reimagined pages of some of these forms that I showed you. So this is that extraordinary care instrument. And I'm going to call attention to a few things. We can not only pull data out of your system of record, whatever that is, and pre-populate it, but we can also automatically add data. So here, in this case, we're automatically adding the date that the form was completed. You saw that that showed up in at least 2 places on that form that somebody would have had to have been, what is today's date? Oh yeah. We can do that automatically. We can also auto-format data so that all of your data are consistent with your sources of information or systems of record. And remember that form had you figure out how old somebody is in months? We can calculate that based off of the birth date automatically. And because we can do that, we can drive decisions from that data. We can also put helpful text in there. We can provide links to additional information. Remember, if these folks aren't exactly literate in these processes or these terms, we can give them help inline. We can also link out to things. You can see the help text and the link samples here. And here's an example of what I mean by driving decisions, right? A lot of these fields said, enter 0 if age equals, right? And so it doesn't matter what you entered, we will calculate the right values when they need to be 0, and we will lock them. We will make them uneditable so that people realize, oh, that was driven by a data element, right? I don't need to even touch that. They can focus on the data that they need to collect that isn't in the system of record. We can also make it easy for people to pick stuff. Remember, in the old form, they had to write in 1, 2, 3. What if they wrote in 6 because they weren't paying attention? How about if we restrict it to what they can actually enter and only give them those options in a drop-down? Back to being auto-calculated. This was the payoff of that entire form. Do they or do they not qualify for services, right? We will automatically choose the right selection by calculating all of the digits that were entered in the prior fields. We can also lock that so that it can't be edited by the person filling out the form. But I really wanted to qualify for, sorry, you don't. And we could do a bunch of stuff with the data that's been collected. And that includes pre-populating all of that data back on the government-supplied form, which in most cases you're legally required to supply back to the government. You have an opportunity to download it, the member has an opportunity, or patient has an opportunity to download it, and this is all of the data that we collected in that prior session automatically entered into the right place with all of the calculations already checked, boxes, etc. on this form. We try to make it easy. We showed this to one of our customers, this exact demo that I just went through, and they said, this is exactly what we need. We used to build forms, and I'm not going to name their tool. And this is a lot easier. I really like the versioning and the ability to roll back. That's right. You didn't see this here, but when you're building out these forms, let's say the government sends you a new version, right? And you have to update it. Well, first we make that really easy. But if you made a mistake, I'm going to click the previous version. I'm going to go back to that. And Theme Builder would be very helpful to be able to use the same form for different brands. Now, you heard a little bit about Theme Builder from Chris Murphy when we were talking about how we've expanded that in SmartIQ. You can make any form look exactly like your website at this point. Buttons, curves, fonts, colors, background images, what have you, and you do not need to be a web designer to do it. Click, 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 choose from a drop-down. It's that simple. It really is. Now, there are some frequently asked questions that we get every time we show this. Well, what if the original form is updated? Because we know it will be, right? It's government-provided form, and sometimes they'll change annually, sometimes they'll change mid-year. SmartIQ projects can be updated quickly, and I'm going to send you to the Smart Bar, but if we have time, I'm going to show you a video that one of our product folks did of bringing in a form using that migrate. Everybody remember the migrate feature that they showed in SmartIQ as part of the product session? There's a demo of bringing in one of these forms and how quickly it can automatically create those forms. Now, I'll also tell you that depending upon the change, you can export and import the sample form, right? And so if you import the form, it's a matter of saying, oh, they added a field, I need to add a question to SmartIQ. it'll take you minutes, not hours, not days, not weeks, not months, and not tens of thousands of dollars to make those changes. It's super straightforward. How do I make forms available in multiple languages? It is literally an export and import. Now, there's some magic that happens in between the export and the import. Somebody in your organization is a certified translator, or you're going to job that out to somebody who is, because we all know that any translation requires a human being to say, yes, this has been properly translated, right? But from the form designer standpoint, they don't need to know Swahili. They just need to know somebody who does. Send it to them, get the file back, and re-import it. And magically, that project now supports Swahili or whatever language. Do the SmartIQ forms meet accessibility guidelines? Yes. In fact, all projects are accessible by default from the start. Now, it's a software tool, right? You can break accessibility if you try, or if you're not careful. We can help you mitigate that. We provide a guide to help you make sure that the project you finish with is as accessible as it started. But we have, actually this is the current standard, WCAG 2.1 AA. We have been certified that our output meets through Theme Builder. I don't know if you saw it on the screen, 2.2, which is the absolute latest standard, and the government hasn't even caught up to that yet. Are SmartIQ forms secure? Well, they're a heck of a lot more secure than a fax machine or a PDF file, that's for sure. But yes, SmartIQ has been certified to meet HIPAA security guidelines. It meets the HIPAA security rule. It meets ISO, SOC, it meets all of the criteria defined in high tech. If there's a security review that you need to go through, SmartIQ will pass it. I can practically guarantee you. Now, I'm going to exit this for a second. And let me unhide this. And let's present this slide. Okay, now, what you see on the screen, we had to change the logo because I didn't want you to know which of our customers provided this sample. This is the actual PDF form that we fed into SmartIQ to do the AI-assisted form migration. I'm going to let this play out. And you're going to see, she's scrolling through the form. Looking for Sally. All right, now, as fast as she scrolled through that, that's how long it took SmartIQ to basically import it. When we built the SmartIQ demo that the screenshots were based off of, it took about 7 or 8 hours to build that out. When she imported this, the entire import process, recognizing all of the questions, recognizing all the question types, recognizing all the fields, recognizing the logic that was involved. Somebody want to guess how long it took? Yeah.
5 minutes.
Pretty close. 6 minutes, 39 seconds. Down from 7 or 8 hours. Now that's 7 or 8 hours of people at Smart who really know this product and can crank stuff out. But to give you a really good starting point in 7 minutes, less than 7 minutes, that's the power of AI. That's the power that Smart is investing in to make you more efficient in your job. So I'm going to bet there are some questions about this because I know that there are people in here in the Medicaid side of the house or that do duals. So who's got questions about using SmartIQ for these kinds of forms? Yep.
The one question I had when it was fed the data, did it tally it up? Because I don't know if I saw it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it did. Okay.
Yep, it tallied it up, and There was no place on the form to put that number. It was just, if it's higher than this, then check this. So it automatically did the calculation and selected the right thing. Good question. Any other questions? No. So here's what I would suggest you do. Find a form, something ugly, something your state requires you to deal with, particularly if you're trying to use an existing platform to do it, and ask your IT folks how long it would take them to build it and how much it would cost you. Then talk to your CSM and say, hey, I have a form. I would really love to see a SmartIQ demo. And I want you to tell me how long it takes you to build it from scratch and do the form migration. Because it doesn't matter until it's your form. What I want you to avoid are fines. What I want you to avoid are mistakes. What I want you to improve is your member experience and your operational efficiency. And that's exactly what SmartIQ is meant to do. Yes, these are just forms, but they are part of your everyday job. You have to deal with these on a regular basis. And unfortunately, I don't see any end in sight. Medicare and Medicaid just keep issuing more and more forms and updates to those forms. So I would highly recommend checking out this particular tool. I went through that a lot faster than I was expecting, and you had only one question. So we've got a little extra time between this session and the next one. But if you have any other questions, we do have the SmartIQ Smart Bar downstairs. You might even want to challenge them. Say, hey, go to this website and download this form. I want to see you do the AI assistant and see how good it is and how long it takes. Question?
I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss this part.
Yep.
We were discussing the pain points and one of them being, help text.
Mm-hmm.
When we got to the final part, were there some pieces of text that were added, or was it not necessary because took the data and made the decision?
So you have two options. I'm going to replay this from this current slide. Actually, technically, you have three options. So for stuff that's important but not necessarily directly relevant to filling out the form, so background information. Remember the 3 pages of definitions? That's a great place to park that, a link. You can do help bubbles, right? If somebody isn't sure, maybe this is the first time they've ever gone through this form and they don't know what you're asking them to do, you can provide help bubbles. Now, the other thing that you can do is you can take decisions away and do those calculations, or shut out fields based off of dates, right? The less they have to think, I hate to say it that way, but the less they have to think, the fewer opportunities there are for mistakes when filling out these forms. It's a good question. Who do I have from Smart Joe? So am I missing anything in terms of help text or help options in IQ that you can think of? All right, good. Any other questions? Yes?
I have a health edge specific questions.
Okay.
Would, like our care managers using guiding care, would they have to leave guiding care to initiate sending out a blank care plan form to a member?
There are two answers to that question. Today, SmartIQ is not directly integrated in with guiding care. And so we are aware that there are some APIs that we could use to be able to pass data back and forth. If you want to use SmartIQ with guiding care, pretty please ask Health Edge if they can make that happen. We've had conversations with them over the last year or so, and we've done some initial investigations, but every customer that comes to them and asks them for SmartIQ with guiding care will increase the onus on them to help us make that integration happen. So in the future, I'm hoping it'll work a lot like how SmartCom is embedded in guiding care, and the data just flows back and forth. Did I answer that well? All right, good.
So right now it would just be care managers receive this completed form and then get it to guiding care.
Yes, and so there are two ways to potentially do that today without any integration. So I'm going to go back to, let me get out of this for a second. I'm going to go back to this page from current slide. All right, so notice we have the ability to spit out that PDF, right? As part of the configuration, you can have it spit out any supported file format, text file, Word document, number of different things. So to help them copy paste rather than have to rekey, having to scan in a physical form, that's at least a step in the right direction. It's still error prone because of the copy paste, but not as error prone. And especially if they have that final artifact that they can just attach into a case, then they have the gospel in addition to what's hand entered. So good question. Any other questions? All right, great. You got a couple of extra minutes. Grab a drink, hit the restroom, and the final session is in here. It is a training. You will learn in a baking show kind of format, right? Because we've got 30 minutes to do a complex training. You will learn how to set up the CMS. You will learn how to approach a very complex document like an evidence of coverage. If you scan the QR code at the end of that session, you will get the badge, and I will email you a super duper unofficial copy of the how-to guide. Unofficial, like Joe has seen it, I've seen it, some other professional services people have seen it. It's not an official smart communication support document, but it will help refresh what you hear in this training and get you started on your way. And if you need more than that, Joe and team are always here to help you. All right, so when you reseat for that third session, make sure that one of the gals scans your badge to let us know that you're in this session as well. All right, and I'll see you in a few minutes. Thank you.